Someone was already standing in my backyard when I turned off the kitchen light, not moving, not waving, just standing there, right at the edge of the snow. I froze with my hand still on the switch. The glow from inside drained out of the window. Darkness swallowed the yard, and the shape didn't leave. I leaned closer to the glass. My breath fogged it. The figure was tall, too tall. Its shoulders sloped in a way that made my stomach tighten, and it was facing my house, facing me. Christmas Eve had been quiet up until that moment. Too quiet. The kind of quiet that feels like the world is holding its breath. I live outside a small town in northern Wisconsin. Pine trees, long driveways, big gaps between houses, the kind of place where you can scream and nobody hears you. I told myself it was probably a neighbor, someone lost, someone drunk. But the shape didn't move, didn't shift, didn't sway. It just stood there like it had been planted into the snow. I stepped back from the window. The heater clicked on, the pipes knocked softly inside the walls. Normal sounds, comfort sounds. Still, my skin wouldn't relax. I walked to the living room and grabbed my coat from the chair. I didn't know why. Some instinct told me I might need it. As I slid my arms into the sleeves, a sound drifted through the walls. A voice, soft, thin, almost careful. It was singing. Not loud enough to be cheerful. Not quiet enough to ignore. A Christmas carol. The melody slid through the trees and pressed against the glass. I recognized it instantly. God rest ye merry gentlemen. The voice was wrong, too slow. Every word stretched just a little too long, as if whoever was singing was tasting the sounds before letting them go. I stepped back toward the kitchen window. The figure was closer. It hadn't walked. There were no new footprints. It was just closer. Now it stood near the old swing set I hadn't used since I was a kid. The singing drifted up again. Let nothing you dismay. My mouth went dry. My dad used to warn me about things that came around during winter storms. Not animals, not people. He said some things used the weather to move, to hide. I never believed him. I reached for the light switch again. The moment the light snapped on, the singing stopped. Silence flooded the yard. The figure was gone. My heart hammered against my ribs. I stared through the glass. The swing set creaked slightly in the wind. Snow drifted lazily in the glow of the porch light. No footprints, no sign of anyone ever being there. I told myself I was tired. I'd worked a double shift at the hardware store. My brain was playing tricks on me. I shut the blinds. Then something tapped against the glass. Not hard, not urgent. Just a gentle little knock. 3 slow taps. I didn't answer. Another tap. Then another. It moved from the kitchen window to the living room window. Tap. Pause. Tap. I stepped back until my shoulders hit the wall. My pulse thudded in my ears. A breath brushed across the glass. Not inside. Outside. The sound of someone exhaling slowly. Then the singing started again. Remember Christ our Savior. But now it wasn't coming from the yard. It was coming from right outside the window, close enough that I could hear the shape of the mouth forming the words. I stayed frozen, staring at the closed blinds. A shadow slid across the fabric. Tall, thin. Its head tilted slowly to one side. My knees shook. The singing faded into a whisper. Then a voice spoke, not singing anymore. Let me finish the song. I didn't answer. The voice continued. You stopped listening last year. A memory stirred in my chest. Last Christmas I'd stayed here alone too. Skipped my family dinner. Said I was sick. I remembered hearing something that night. Singing. Far away. I'd turned up the TV and ignored it. The voice outside laughed softly. A dry, patient sound. You don't remember what happens when the song ends. My hand found the flashlight on the counter. I clicked it on. Its beam cut across the room. The shadow outside slid out of view. The tapping stopped. The yard went silent again. I didn't breathe until my lungs burned. Minutes passed, then 10, then more. Nothing happened. Eventually, my body loosened. Just a little. I convinced myself it was over. I went upstairs and locked my bedroom door. Sat on my bed with the flashlight still clutched in my hand. Snow whispered against the roof. The house creaked softly as it settled. I almost fell asleep. That's when the singing started again. Not outside, inside, below me, in my living room. Low, gentle, patient. Who was born on Christmas Day? My blood turned to ice. Slow footsteps crossed the floor beneath me. Not heavy, measured, like whoever was walking knew exactly how much noise to make. The song climbed the stairs. Each word rose closer. The top step groaned faintly. My door handle twitched, not rattled, just turned slightly as if someone was testing it. The singing stopped right outside my room. Silence pressed against the door. Then a soft knock. Once, twice, thrice. I held my breath. A whisper slipped through the crack beneath the door. You didn't let me finish. The door handle turned slowly. It didn't open. The lock held. For now. I watched the light under the door. A tall shadow slid across it. Then another, as if something long and narrow was passing by. A faint scrape whispered along the wood. Not nails. Something smoother. Something wrong. Then the footsteps retreated. The stairs creaked again. The front door opened. Cold air brushed the bottom of my bedroom door. Then the house went still. I waited until dawn. I didn't move. Didn't sleep. Didn't breathe normally again until the sky turned pale blue. When I finally worked up the courage to leave my room, the house looked untouched. No footprints, no scratches, no sign anyone had ever been inside. Except for one thing. On my living room floor, right in front of the couch, sat a small object, a music box, old wooden. Its paint chipped and faded. I picked it up with shaking hands. Inside, engraved in careful script, were the words, "Finish the song." I closed the lid. The music box clicked, and from somewhere deep, inside the walls, a soft voice began to sing. To save us all from Satan's power. I dropped the box. It didn't stop. The singing slid through the house again, slow and patient, as if it had all the time in the world. And this time, it wasn't waiting outside.